Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be doing our workshop, Life After Acquired Brain Injury, Practical Strategies for Managing Challenges with Attention and Memory. My name is Mick Timbrell. I'm the Community Navigator here at the Nanaimo Brain Injury Society. And my role as the community navigator is just to connect people with resources in the community, as well as provide information and support for navigating recovery from acquired brain injury. And today I'm joined by both Linda and Hayden. If you both wanted to introduce yourself.
Hello.
And maybe tell everybody a little bit about you and your brain injury, if you're willing to share.
Okay.
Hayden, do you want to go first?
Sure. I had my brain injury in September of 2010, and I was in the hospital for about 6 months, and then I was an outpatient for about another year after that, and it's been an uphill ever since I chose to give God all the credit and honor, credit and glory. I'm very thankful, and I love it. I love him, and I wouldn't have had this mindset if I didn't go through what I did. So there are times where I feel very sad, and I feel very angry, and I feel very depressed and paranoid. But I've learned to be true to myself. I've learned to be true to what my role in this world is, and what my responsibility in it is, and I just kind of came down a little bit. I just kind of learned to accept life for what it is, and I learned to realize that the sun will rise and fall tomorrow without me. So it's honestly brought me a new mindset, and I'm very grateful that I got the opportunity. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Hayden. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for sharing. Linda, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Linda. I've had an acquired brain injury from a stroke. It'd be about 4.5 years ago now. And learning how to adapt to the new normal has been quite a challenge, but it's all good. I've continued with physio for a weekly physio, which has helped me relearn to walk and stabilize my walking or my standing. So that's been a big help. But when I first had the stroke, I was in hospital for 13 weeks and then was able to access outpatient physio for another 6. They were going to give me 6, but they extended it to 8 because I was making progress. So I encourage anyone that has an acquired brain injury to access as many resources as you can and learn how to make adaptations as needed.
Amen, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great, Linda. Thank you for sharing. I think that adds quite a bit, in terms of our presentation here, in terms of talking about adaptability and utilizing, as many different resources as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so thank you both so much for being here. And today we're gonna just look at the Life After Acquired Brain Injury program, which is a program here at NBIS. We're going to look at the 6R system, which is sort of what that program is based around. And we're going to look through that lens at strategies for managing and improving attention and concentration, as well as strategies for managing memory challenges and tips to improve. Great. So before we kind of get in too far into it, I'll just explain a little bit more about what the Life After Acquired Brain Injury program is. So here at NBIS, it's a 10-week program. We are offering it in the new year. We're going to be running it both in person, and there will be an online version as well, just due to COVID and also accessibility, just making sure we're reaching as many people as we can. It'll be 10 sessions, 90 minutes each session. And the program is really aimed at providing, different tools and techniques for people to manage some of the challenges around their acquired brain injury. Some of the challenges we'll be looking at are, managing energy, attention and focus, memory, irritability and anger, impulsivity, looking at tools and strategies for goal setting and planning, as well as building self-confidence and self-identity. So we're excited for that once it comes around in the new year. Obviously, we run it usually about twice a year, but obviously with COVID, we've kind of had a little bit of an interruption in that, and we're looking to kind of get back on our feet with that program in the new year. So with that, we'll look at the 6R system. So this is the system that's basically, this is sort of the foundation of our Life After Acquired Brain Injury program. And those 6 Rs are recognize, reduce, retreat, relax, and rebuild. So the first step in terms of the 6R system is really about identifying what the issue is, identifying sort of how it's impacting you. And with each problem or barrier or challenge that we encounter, there's usually internal and external factors. So, the first step is to sort of look internally, identify what you're having difficulties with, when, where, how are you noticing your functioning in terms of your system at different points in the day? Are you functioning better in the morning when you're a bit well rested and crisp and clear versus at night? Or maybe you're somebody who isn't as crisp and clear in the morning and you need a few hours to kind of get into the swing of the day, and just, sort of identifying those patterns for yourself. And looking at, your thoughts and feelings, how you're addressing some of the symptoms around your brain injury, and whether you're successful in that or if it's something that maybe needs a little bit of work. Also looking at, how your body's reacting when you're attempting a task. Are you finding you're getting quite tired quite quickly? Are you finding you're able to manage for that day, or and then the next few days you're kind of paying for it and needing some time to recover? So just looking at some of those physiological indicators from your body in terms of how you're coping with your brain injury symptoms. And as well with that, there's also the external, people, places, things. Are there, certain people that you find very helpful in terms of managing with some of your brain injury symptoms, or are there people who are more difficult or sort of draining for you? Are there certain situations where you find you're having success, or other situations where you're finding it's a bit harder, a bit more triggering? Identifying those things of triggers for your symptoms, what's making you feel worse, what activities are you noticing that are helping or making you feel better, And then looking at, what are the external blocks to your success in terms of your symptoms, whether that be, accessibility issues, whether that be, just having too much placed on your plate where you're just not at a point of being able to handle something, whether it's a system such as, government or something like that, where sort of their internal processes and applications and paperwork are a bit difficult for you to get through. And then looking at those kind of factors and sort of how you can start looking at approaching those in a little bit better position for your own success. So the next R is reduce, and this is really about eliminating those things that are causing you difficulties, are triggering for your symptoms, and just generally are a block to your success. Whether it's expectations of yourself, pushing yourself too hard for too long, and ending up in that energy crash situation. Avoiding doing things when you're tired or hungry or sick, or feeling some anxiety or stress, or maybe something's happened where emotionally you're a bit triggered, as well as looking at things like learning to say no to extra demands, especially keeping that idea of reducing your workload and keeping it within a realistic time frame or frame of what you're capable of doing. And also avoiding substance use. Those substances can often kind of exacerbate symptoms and pre-existing kind of difficulties. So the next R we are going to do is retreat. And this is about kind of exiting when things are going a bit sideways for you. So in terms of that, when you're finding you're in a situation where, for whatever reason, your symptoms are just kind of getting the better of you, maybe you're overwhelmed, maybe, there's just a lot of things going on in your situation, looking at kind of exiting the situation as gracefully as you can. And maybe that's needing to leave for a brief period of time, just a few minutes, stepping out of the room, kind of having a quick 10, 15-minute breather to kind of get yourself centered. And that can be especially true in terms of needing that if you are emotional, tired, stressed, those kind of things. And communication around that as well is very key. Letting the people around you know sort of what's going on, say, my brain is shutting down and I need to kind of have some quiet time or get to a quiet place and we can finish this at another point. It can be quite helpful. Often, just that communication piece in terms of your symptoms can really help those around you kind of help to mitigate some of the challenges you're going to face with your symptoms. And then the next R is relax. So when you've had this kind of situation where, it hasn't worked out, you're overwhelmed, your symptoms are getting the better of you, you've, exited this situation where you were overwhelmed and you've made your kind of escape, so to say. It's time to get to a place and relax. Just relax your body and kind of get yourself centered, trying, meditation or relaxation exercises, or maybe it's yoga. For some people, it can even be being in nature can be really quite beneficial as well, just to kind of have that calming, soothing experience. And sometimes it's just, simply finding something that's enjoyable for you, and that can be different for everyone. What you may find enjoyable, I may not, and vice versa. So that's definitely a very, very important step in the process, is being able to give yourself that time to recharge and kind of get back to center. And the next one is rethink or regroup. You know, give yourself permission to have a brain injury. Often we kind of will have expectations of ourselves, generally speaking, brain injury or not, and not all the time are those expectations realistic. But often with brain injury, people can sort of look at I call it the I used to lens. You know, I used to be able to do this, I used to be able to do that, and you know, often can kind of beat themselves up a little bit or get down because they aren't able to do those things, and really get quite frustrated, which is very understandable. But it is important to keep it framed within the reality of that you have an injury. These all are symptoms of an injury. And when it's a more obvious injury, such as broken arm or broken leg, you tend to kind of get that visual reminder and adjust your expectations, where sometimes with brain injury, because it's not always visual in your face, sometimes we can lose sight of that and maybe have some unrealistic expectations of ourselves. You know, it's important in those instances to look objectively.
Mick,
yeah,
they actually call it the hidden injury.
Yeah.
You can't see it, right? So okay.
Yeah, and that's true, right? And that's the thing, like it's not obvious, and that can not only be frustrating in terms of like your internal expectations of yourself, but that can also, you know, it goes externally as well in terms of people who aren't normally in your circle and may not be aware of your brain injury, may sort of have expectations of you based on thinking, well, this is just you know, sort of a just typical person, like why can't they do this or that, and it's kind of, you know, having to inform them like, no, I have an injury, and you know, I have to kind of do things a bit differently. So with that, we move on to our 6th R, which is rebuilding. And this is all about, you know, sort of after you've gone through the rethinking phase, which is about, you know, just changing that perception and looking honestly at things, and looking honestly at where you're at, looking at different approaches you can take that will improve your chances for success. You know, and that's can be things like trying new things, or trying old things in a different way if you were finding like you just weren't having any success with that. You know, really explore strategies for overcoming your barriers. It can really be, especially this stage, really quite a trial and error phase, which can be frustrating for sure to go through that, especially when there's, you know, more error than success. But it's through that you learn and you find those strategies that will work for you, and then you can build on them. You can build on your successes. It's also important in this stage to surround yourself with people that will support you, and help you out. And that doesn't always necessarily mean that it's someone who's going to tell you everything you're doing is great. You kind of need that person who sometimes can tell you, like, you know what, like this strategy you're using, I'm noticing it's not working quite well for you. And those are important people to have who can kind of share that in a gentle sort of way. And then finally in this stage, you know, working within your limits, again, that realistic view is super important. You know, we don't want to push ourselves to the point of a crash, because oftentimes that can really start to hold back in terms of progress, not only, you know, overtaxing your brain, but also, you know, in terms of your confidence. You know, you don't want to shatter that either, because we all have that sometimes of, you know, when things go sideways or go in a way that we're not really wanting, that it can become easy to beat ourselves up a little bit and maybe magnify the negatives more than the positives. So it's important to work within those limits and keep the positive progress going. So with that, we are going to move on in terms of looking at strategies through the 6 Rs system of managing attention and focus. So with that, you know, this is where it's all about identifying, right? Identifying what your challenge is, sort of where you're seeing it the most. You know, this is identifying, you know, are you having difficulties keeping track of the topic of conversation? Are you finding that you can't stay focused on one task or activity? Do you find you're moving through several tasks without really completing any one specifically? You know, are you that person who, once you're interrupted, you know, everything kind of goes off the rails and it's hard to get back on track or get back to the task at hand? So with that, Linda or Hayden, have either one of you sort of had any of those moments of recognizing, like, hey, you know, my attention or concentration just isn't here right now, and identifying sort of when that's happening?
Oh yeah. Linda, ladies first. Go ahead.
Oh,
Okay.
well,
No,
for me, I was one that could multitask, so that didn't affect me as badly. But what I found I've had to do is write notes for myself and check them off. Like if I had something to do that I needed doing in the near future, I would write my notes, or I have a calendar with large area to write in, so I'd get appointments and so on written in as soon as I received that appointment so that I wouldn't forget it. Those kind of things.
Okay.
But as far as attention and concentration, that hasn't bothered me that badly, but well, at least that's what I'm saying. Maybe other people are saying something different, but I haven't heard anything too negative that way. Except there's one thing on because the injury affected my left side, somebody would come up on my left side, and it's not because I couldn't see them. My vision is fine. It's just that the brain isn't recognizing that they're there.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would get startled. But it's all part of the brain needing to retrain itself.
Right.
Alrighty, thanks, Linda. Thanks for sharing, Hayden.
Me, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I would just like to say all honor and glory goes to God for everything. And I think that people that have acquired a brain injury should learn to acquire ability to be patient, an ability to wait, an ability to enjoy the wait, you know, enjoy the wait and receive all the blessings that this life was intended for us to receive, right? That requires patience and it requires strength, not of our own doing, of Him, and I'm just so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for sharing, both Linda and Hayden. That was great, just to kind of get that.
You're welcome.
Get that perspective for sure. So now we'll move on to the second R in terms of looking at attention and concentration. concentration. And that's reducing the things that can really eat up our attention and can be quite distracting. You know, things like background noise, phone notifications are a big one for people. Even if you have your phone on vibrate, that can still, you know, hearing that in the background can definitely be a bit distracting. You know, TV, people talking in the background. Visual distractions as well, clutter, or, you know, if you're working on a task and you kind of have all the materials that you need and they're just sort of laying out there while you're trying to do other things, it can really be quite distracting because it's that visual reminder of that thing you need to be doing, you know, at another point, but it can really be drawing your focus, especially if it's something that you're having a bit of difficulties with. Even things like, you know, having multiple demands of your attention, multitasking, trying to do too much at once, as well as, you know, substance use, alcohol or street drugs, and even some medications can kind of have that effect of making people a bit more distracted. And again, avoiding doing things when you're tired or stressed or you're having anxiety, those kind of things as well. Do either one of you want to speak to things that you find can be particularly difficult in terms of, you know, blocking out when you're needing to have attention and concentration?
I found that noise really bothered me more after my stroke than before.
For sure.
You know, background noise.
I agree with that 100%. Like, I feel
Yeah,
like,
it's just like,
like all my senses are like on fire, you know, like they're all like so alive and so amazing, and I just feel so, I feel like I've been reborn, you know. And that's a personal, and that's a personal
at the
choice.
same, yeah. At the same time, though, you can get overstimulation, you know, on your senses, and that could be an impediment to peace that you have.
Yeah, no, and thanks both of you for sharing that. That's definitely interesting in terms of noise, definitely being a common theme in terms of things that are very distracting. And yeah, I can definitely relate to that, especially like I said, nowadays with phones and that sort of thing. It does seem like there's constant
technology, right?
Yeah.
The advancements to technology can be to our detriment if we let it, you know. That's like anything. A little bit of this, a little bit of that is good, but if you have like, if you overdo it with this, then you overdo it with life, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
So we'll move on to the third R for attention and concentration, and that's retreat. So when you've had sort of the experience of, you know, you're kind of frustrated, you're not able to hold your attention and concentration, you know, doing those things that can kind of get yourself out of that situation. You know, taking frequent breaks can be really helpful in terms of, like I said, just walking away from that situation, whether it's an extended period of time or, you know, a few minutes here or there. You know, as soon as you're kind of feeling like things are going a bit sideways, or you're feeling your ability to concentrate is not where you'd like it, that in itself may be a sign of like, okay, so maybe it's time for me to, you know, take a quick 10-15 minute breather here and come back and give this another shot. You know, and try to look at things like whenever possible, if say you're trying to do a specific task and you're finding your attention on it is just not quite there. Looking at, you know, taking that break when you finish a task or a step, so that way when you come back to it, it's easy to get back to right where you left off. Sometimes that can even be assisted with leaving like a reminder note, whether that's a voice recording or, you know, an object or something, where you know to kind of where you're picking back up. You know, could be a sticky note, you know, if it's a bookmark, something like that, that just can be helpful in terms of giving you a reminder of where you left off. Whenever possible. Sometimes you're way too overwhelmed and you just need to kind of just walk away from the situation and then come back to it at a little bit better headspace. So then we're going to look in terms of, you know, relaxing after that. You know, when you've taken that break, you know, you've come back, maybe you're still overwhelmed, you're still feeling like you can't, you know, your attention and concentration just isn't there. Take another step back, take another break, you know, make sure to stop and breathe. You know, breathing will kind of slow your brain down and allow you to get back to center and refocus a bit. You know, find an activity that's relaxing, whatever that may be for you. Again, nature, meditation, maybe for some people it's reading, maybe some people not. You know, it's just whatever you can find that you find particularly relaxing. Maybe sitting in a chair in a dark room for a few minutes, whatever that may be. And another thing you can try as well when you're in that relax, you know, kind of mode, is rewarding yourself for the hard work that you've already done in trying to manage your attention and concentration. Just kind of giving yourself a pat on the back, because it isn't always easy. You know, the problem with brain injury is it's very up and down, can be very day to day. So, you know, the days where it is a challenge and you're still kind of pushing forward in a manageable way, it's definitely important to give yourself a pat on the back for sure, and give yourself a little reward or treat, whatever that may be. You know, it's different for everybody. Which is kind of the overarching theme with brain injuries, that it's different for everybody. Linda or Hayden, do you want to share anything you use to kind of relax and recharge your batteries?
Go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, I like reading, and so I'll do that at night before I go to sleep, so that helps me slow down. Or even during the day, I might just take a reading break. Something I enjoy. I've always enjoyed that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I also find that I've had great support from my church family.
Yep.
And so I make a point of attending church weekly, and also an accountability group. So that I'm finding helpful, just in it's a way of well, rewarding myself, I think, because it's something I really enjoy. And have had such support, and that's been very helpful for me. How about you, Hayden?
For me, first and foremost, glory be to God forever and always. My faith obviously has been a tremendous, has been a tremendous denominator in my life, you know, and it's brought with it an amazing opportunities, amazing gifts, amazing blessings, by allowing me to be a blessing to other people, by allowing me to shine as bright as I want to shine, you know, to have the freedom to grow into the man I want to grow into. After everything that I've been through, for me to experience this transition personally is such a gift, and I'm so grateful. And I wouldn't be where I am without this transition. So thank you.
Great. So yeah, and that I think really drives home the point of, you know, what each of us find relaxing or use to recharge our batteries looks different for each person in terms of their brain injury, but it's really about having that thing that can help you recharge your batteries so that you can move forward in a positive sort of way and be able to start addressing some of the issues that you're going through, because it's not always easy. Which brings me to the next R, which is rethink and regroup, you know. And part of that is examining, again, those expectations of yourself and looking objectively at yourself. And sometimes that's even bringing somebody else in, you know, a caregiver, family member, friend, whoever that whose opinion you trust, that can really help in terms of giving you that objective outside view as well. You know, allowing you to look at what adjustments you might need to make, and you know, sort of adopting that, viewing things from different perspectives and getting different perspectives so you can get sort of a clear view of, you know, how you're functioning, how you're approaching things, and how that can affect in terms of the strategies and the techniques that you're using. Linda or Hayden, can either of you speak to the kind of that process of having to, you know, having something not go as planned and having to kind of regroup a little bit and rethink your approach to it? Maybe something that you found helpful or found to be successful, in particular, I guess, also to attention and concentration.
Okay. Go ahead, Linda.
Well, at first I had difficulty even accepting that I had a brain injury. I'm a former nurse, and you'd think that I'd know, you know, a bit more about what it is, but for me, it was just making adjustments to how my body's functioning, you know, or not functioning. Were the biggest adjustments, but not thinking of it really as a brain injury. So that I had to take some time to come to terms with that.
Right.
And I've read a really good book called The Brain That Retrains Itself.
Right.
And I found, you know, there's ways that the brain can rework what's happened. And I just think that's totally amazing how we're made. And then, you know, experiencing the ability to walk again has been a real boost.
That's beautiful.
But as I said to somebody, climbing the gross grind isn't in my picture for the next while.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to the realistic expectations of yourself, for sure.
Yeah, mind you, I love the outdoors, so we make adjustments. My husband pushes me in the wheelchair. We've got 2 parks within a kilometer of our set where we live here, so I'm able to get out occasionally for recharge in nature. So
right on.
Great.
Right on. That's beautiful.
You just have to do as much as you can. And I used to do the cooking and my husband the cleaning. And so now I've gotten to the point where I can make a couple of meals a week. That's kind of the goals that I set for myself. And usually they turn out fine. So I haven't poisoned them yet.
No, things are looking good.
Yep, they are.
Right on.
They are.
I can agree to that, because my partner that I have right now, Patience, is so just like her name, so patient with me and so understanding, and I love her, and I'm so grateful, and so yeah, I'm just like on another level, you guys. Like, it's amazing.
That's awesome. It's great to hear.
That's great.
And it's and again, speaking to that, difference in the supports that you have around you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Approaching, attention and concentration and just those things that come up with brain injury, right?
Yeah.
And
I think, and Mick, if I can stop there, I think that because of my brain injury, I'm more sensitive to things, so everything is more vibrant and more of a wow factor,
Yeah.
And it's more, so I really appreciate everything that much more than the next person in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is brain injury can also be a huge perspective shifting for people.
Oh, for sure. Amen.
So yeah, we'll move on to the next R, which is rebuild. So this is about, we've gone through the process of identifying the issue, trying to eliminate things, getting out of situations where it's going a bit sideways, rethinking new strategies. And then this is about, implementing some of those strategies and some of those strategies in terms of, specific to attention and concentration can be, structuring your time, doing things when your energy level is high, doing things for short periods of time, or doing things with a designated stop time. That way, again, maximizing your energy level versus, the time you're dedicating to a task, so you're not sort of draining your batteries and getting overwhelmed with a specific task. As well as also organizing your tasks, looking at utilizing lists, prioritizing, getting the most important things sort of done or at least, attempted while your energy levels are pretty good. And even looking at, breaking your task into smaller steps that will really help in terms of being able to focus on each individual step to getting your goal done. Sometimes if we look at a task as its whole, it can be overwhelming. It appears a bit more difficult than it may actually be when we're looking at it in totality versus just breaking up into smaller steps. There's, obviously through neuroplasticity, our brain is, trying to fix itself. So we can look at different things in terms of strengthening your attention, looking at doing activities that require not as much focus or effort, starting slow and increasing gradually. It's definitely a big stressing point is the gradual increase in things. We don't want to go sort of 0 to 100. That's oftentimes when people experience a crash. It's easy to get frustrated at that point and feel like you can't do it. Just mainly because you're sort of not being able to do it at the pace that you would like.
Exactly.
Which creates frustration, understandably so. It's not easy to kind of have to go at what you feel like is half speed. That's a difficult point in terms of brain injury, is that accepting maybe a different timeline for yourself in terms of getting tasks done, particular to your attention. And a big part of that sort of neuroplasticity retraining is making the activity a routine part of your day. That can be a huge benefit, is just making that part of your routine, doing it every day. Sort of the more you're using that neuro connection, the stronger it can get. But yeah, so that's the rebuild part of the attention and concentration. Linda or Hayden, do you either one of you want to speak to a strategy you've used in terms of your attention and concentration that's been effective for you?
Okay, I'll go, Linda, if you want. Okay, for me, just tapping into the source on a regular basis, and also receiving all of his giftings and challenging myself to better my life as well as the people I come into contact with. So that's where I stand on that, and just embrace every minute, and just I try really hard to always look at the bright side of life, always try to see the brighter, that there's a brighter side to the situation, always try to make sense of something in that way, and always look to um make a change for the better.
Alrighty, so yeah, using a bit more of a positive perspective.
Yeah, using what the enemy meant for my harm and turning around for my good.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on now.
Yeah.
We'll look at the first R of memory, which is again that recognizing, identifying when there is an issue or a challenge. When you're having difficulties remembering things, or where, what situations are there specific areas that are challenging for you? Are you noticing that there's factors contributing to your memory challenges, such as fatigue? Are you sort of more forgetful later on in the day when you're a bit more tired? Are you more forgetful when you're stressed and you have some balls in the air that you're juggling? Are you more forgetful when there's sort of a heightened state of emotion for yourself? Do either one of you sort of have any of those things that you find just more triggering for your memory issues than normal?
Linda, you want to go first?
Well, I say, as you were saying, that pointing out that the idea of really knowing yourself,
Amen.
if you're tired or stressed out or whatever, that recognizing
Amen.
that is half the battle.
Right.
And just one thing that I do, like if we have an appointment coming up, I'll mention to my husband, was that on, is that on November 6th or whatever? Was that appointment made? Or, to bounce it back off of him before I look it up. So it's kind of, if I speak about it, sometimes that's a help, like an appointment day or time or such. Yeah, if I talk it up a bit, that helps for me.
Okay, yeah, and
I try to make appointments, when I'm fresher, so that's in the morning. If I have an appointment.
Yeah, and that's and that's great sort of identification for yourself in terms of realizing there's a time of day that works better for you in terms of your cognitive functioning, and sort of identifying those things that you can do to kind of keep it fresh in your mind in terms of appointments and those sort of things. So I'll move on to the second R, which is reducing, those things that can really take up our cognitive energy and really inhibit our ability to use our memory as optimally as possible. It can be, again, that fatigue factor. When you're tired, the memory just may not be what it is at a different point in the day. For some people, poor diet or nutrition can be an issue. It's giving your brain the best fuel you can to get the best performance out of it is an important key element. again, as we touched on, like stress and anxiety, depression can all be inhibitors to a great working memory. Substance use, again, alcohol or street drugs, some medications can also sort of affect memory as well. Do either one of you have something you've noticed that tends to make your memory worse?
Make my memory worse? No, but I take medication to make my memory better because
Okay.
I get anxiety really bad, and sorry,
No, that's great.
sometimes I just don't know what to do, and I don't know. So if I don't take my pills, I lose it.
Yeah, yeah, and fair enough, and definitely no need to apologize at all.
Okay. Okay.
You know, and that definitely is good knowledge that, you know, with your anxiety, you need that support there, that extra support in order for things to sort of go a bit more smoothly for yourself. So that's, you know, that's excellent that you have pinpointed anxiety as one of those factors that really can impact your memory, and you know, utilize the medication in order to kind of keep that in check and keep things going in a great direction.
That's very important, you know, because sometimes you need extra help to get over anxiety and depression, and those can be highlighted when one has a brain injury.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that too, Hayden.
Very
No
important.
problem at all.
Yeah.
That I shared that because I'm just saying, like, some drugs are okay, you know, like some drugs are good for you. Like I smoke pot once in a while, right? And that's okay, you know. But I think it's everything in hold on, what's the word? Everything in
Moderation.
moderation. There's the word. Thank you. You know, everything in moderation. That I think that's the thing that is sometimes easy to get out of control because you're like, I have so much freedom because you've come out of the hospital. I've come out of the hospital. I've come out of, you know, the chains of my past, and I've come over those things that were holding me back. And Jesus gave me the strength to be where I am, and I'm so grateful, and I love him, and thank you. Amen.
Great. Yeah, and that's the thing. Different coping mechanisms can work differently for different people. So I definitely thank you for sharing in terms of you know, utilizing.
No, I felt really led to share it.
Okay, great, because yeah, there's a lot of stigma around using medication for anxiety and depression.
Exactly.
And when people share their experiences with it, that sort of can break down that stigma. So thank you for sharing.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
So we'll move on to the third R for memory.
Third R, okay.
Is retreat. You know, getting away from situations that are overwhelming. You know, where it's difficult to think, it's hard to remember things because, you know, either you're fatigued or, again, you know, whatever it may be that's triggering some memory challenges for you. And again, really focusing on taking breaks as often as possible, just eliminating or at least trying to mitigate as much as possible the fatigue factor with memory. And with that, I'll move on to the fourth R, which is, you know, relax. We've kind of gone over this a little bit in terms of, you know, taking a break, doing something restful or relaxing, you know, meditation, reading, you know, your faith, whatever it may be that helps you to recharge. And with that, I will move to the fifth R, which is, you know, rethink or regroup. So specific to memory, looking at sort of challenging your beliefs around, using external tools,
Mhm.
you know, whether that's notebooks or calendars or memo pads, sorry. You know, some people can feel like it's can be a bit of a crutch and won't necessarily help them to get better. But, you know, we need to start looking at sort of meeting yourself where you're at.
Mhm.
You know, it's good to have goals and to keep working at strengthening
Mhm.
your cognitive abilities as much as you can. But there are points where maybe kind of that constant testing of those can actually be kind of to your detriment. It can add a bit of stress or even a bit more
Mhm.
pressure or anxiety to
Amen.
smaller tasks that you know, may already be a bit much for you.
Amen. Right on.
And again, that speaks to that realistic view of yourself.
Right.
Can either one of you share any kind of tools that you use in terms of, you know, approaching some of your memory challenges,
Yeah.
like a notebook or smartphone, whatever it may be?
Go ahead, Linda.
Yes, sometimes I've used my phone to write memos to myself,
Mhm.
but it's usually writing on the calendar or sticky notes or whatever. And that's something that's not new. I've always needed that for my memory. So
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. You know, that's one of the things with brain injury as well, is it can kind of crank the volume on some pre-existing personal traits. You know, if you struggle with memory even beforehand, maybe it's a bit more pronounced after brain injury. So with that, I will move on to our 6th R, which is rebuild. So we'll look at, you know, these are, again, those external things we can do. Notebooks, you know, pocket calendars, smartphones, you know, whether maybe it's a whiteboard on your bathroom door, because, you know, it's a spot you're going to see at least a couple of times a day, if not more. You know, keeping track of appointments that way, or again with that memo pad approach. And maybe it's even something like for tasks, having timers to sort of remind yourself. Cooking is a big one where timers are pretty important, just to remind yourself, because you may not be in front of the stove the whole time you're cooking. And things pop up and life is busy, so you may forget. Another kind of tool to use is, you know, being organized. That daily, weekly sort of routine for things can really be helpful in terms of your memory. You know, if it's easier to remember if you're doing the same thing on the same day at the same time. You know, putting things in the same place, you know, set place for your keys, wallet or
Hey,
purse.
Mick, I
Yes.
just want to stop you right there because I'm just saying, like, sometimes for people with a brain injury, they need to put their pride away and
Hmm.
accept the help. You
Yeah.
know, and accept that they're not perfect, and accept. For me, I became kind of a neat freak, a kind of like a tidy freak. I needed to have everything clean. I needed to have everything perfect. And you know what I realized? You don't. You don't have to live like that. You don't have to live with these out of this world expectations for yourself. You know, all you have to do is be comfortable with who you are as a person in that moment, and you know things will take off for you.
Yeah, and that's a big part of brain injury, is that self-awareness
Yeah,
of and meeting yourself where you're at.
right.
That's a really huge piece, and that kind of, you know, dovetails into, you know, asking for help. you know, from
Mhm.
people, you know, asking people to repeat themselves if they've
Right.
said something and you've forgot it,
Right.
taking time to write notes for yourself or asking somebody else to write notes for you. Maybe it's bringing a friend or a family member with you to medical appointments or important appointments where,
Mhm.
you know, things may be discussed that may be very, very detailed, and you may not remember everything that was said, and you may miss something crucial. So having that extra person there and having that awareness that, hey, I might not catch everything that's being said.
Mhm.
So it would, you know, be in my best interest to sort of have that extra person there to sort of catch what I may forget. And again, looking at the neuroplasticity and strengthening your neural connections. You know, if it's something important, you know, reading it out loud, rehearsing it over and over again, those kind of things may be beneficial and can really sort of solidify your memory. So do either one of you have any sort of you know, tip or trick that you would pass on to somebody in terms of some strategies that you've used that have been helpful in terms of either, you know, being organized, you know, using something external, like Linda mentioned, the memo pad on her phone sometimes, anything that you found to be helpful?
For me, I've always been very independent, probably too independent. And so for me to ask for help has been difficult at times. For instance, I went out to church the other day I got my vest on, but I couldn't get it zipped up. So once I got there, I asked a fellow parishioner to zip me up. So I said, I'm getting to the point where I'm having to ask for help. I mean, I'm feeling better about asking for help. So,
Yeah, and that's a big key is getting comfortable with, again, meeting yourself where you're at and you know, asking for help when it's needed. You know, it's definitely something that can take a lot of stress off your plate for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So with
For me,
that,
is it my turn now?
yeah, go for it, Hayden.
All right. For me, it's letting go of my past abuse, and my past struggles that I didn't deal with. I finally deal with them, and I feel free. You know, I feel so free. I feel so amazing. I feel so grateful. All honor and glory to God. There you go. That's what it is, baby.
Nice, awesome.
Right on.
No, and that's yeah, another thing, letting go of the past and even sort of those past
Yeah.
expectations of
Yeah.
ourselves. Like I said, that I used to cleanse.
Just being free. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, just being yourself and who you are now, and not sort of holding yourself to this this bar of what you used to do pre-injury. It's not a particularly helpful activity.
No.
For sure.
But Mick, it can also, you can also flip it around and use it as a tool to appreciate how far you've come.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's what I do. I mean,
yes.
I think about all the struggles I went through. I think about all the pain that I caused my family, my loved ones, and all that I put them through, and it gives me so much strength to know that I have the pen back and I can do something with it, you know? And
Yeah.
that I can contribute.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Well, with that, actually sort of concludes our workshop here. Thanks everyone who's watching, and
Thanks for playing.
Yeah, and thanks Linda and Hayden for
No problem.
sharing
No
your
problem.
experiences and your perspectives and the things that have worked for you. You know, that lived experience piece is so huge for people in terms of brain injury. So I really appreciate and thank you both so much.
No problem. No problem at all.
Here.
No problem at all. Yes, Linda?
Just another note, that 10-part session that you've got upcoming in the winter, I just encourage anybody to get in or to be part of that, because I found it so helpful. At first, with my brain injury, I felt, not alone, but this way there was 9 or 10 other people in the group that shared their experiences, and so you felt like you were, listened to, and
right.
that
Strength in numbers, right? Strength in numbers.
Yes, there certainly was.
Great. Thanks
help.
for sharing that, Linda, too, and I appreciate
Very good.
sharing the positive experience you had with the program. That's greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
And for those out there watching, if you're looking to get connected with the Nanaimo Brain Injury Society, we're located here in Nanaimo. In terms of connecting with me specifically, you can reach me at my office line, 250-753-5600, extension 1. I can be reached on cell phone, via text, email, basically however you need to reach out and connect with me. I'm available. And lastly, this wouldn't be possible, the Life After Acquired Brain Injury program, without the help of the Prince George Brain Injury Group. They are just a wonderful organization. They do so much, not just in their own city for those living with acquired brain injury, but they do a lot for the province in general. They've developed materials that the Life After Brain Injury program is based off of. It's 20 years of research that they've done that's really put that material together. People who've used their program, have all reported a tremendous impact positively in terms of their lives and the lives of their caregivers as well. So a big, huge thank you to Prince George for letting us access their material and being such a huge support in the province of BC. Great. So thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you have a good day.
See ya.
See you later.
Yep.